Hi, and welcome to the Flex with Aaliyah. Today, I'm talking about hosting an event, specifically a competition. My gym, League of Extraordinary Fitness, happened to host this past weekend, and there were lots of roles that I had to take on. And that's what this podcast is about things that come up, what hosting entails, stuff like that. And if you're curious, because maybe you want to host your own event. Maybe you just want to know what some of the behind the scenes are. Take a listen. I'll try to keep it fun. I'm going to kick things off with a quote. I think this one is kind of funny, which is exactly why I picked it. Event hosting is an extreme sport. Woo! Absolutely. This past weekend was not my first rodeo. I've hosted other competitions before. This one seemed a little bit more involved because it was a national competition that gyms were hosting all over the United States and internationally, which was a really cool opportunity for my gym to get to host. And I was super excited about it. I had multiple athletes from my gym and people that I personally train partake in the competition. So not only was I hosting, but I also had the role of coaching and working my athletes to this end goal, which was the competition called Festivus Games. And part of hosting is getting participants to sign up. Sometimes that's a bit of work because you feel like you're trying to sell the competition or positively coerce people into signing up because the competition will not work unless you have competitors. Unfortunately, that's how the cookie crumbles. I was happy to get a bunch of people from my gym to participate. We had, I want to say, 8 teams from my gym go, which was super exciting. Not only because I got to coach them up to that point, but you really got to set a goal for your gym. And instead of going about the motions like, I just want to be healthy, this puts it in perspective of something that we are concretely training for. It gives the gym a focus, the community some excitement. And that's why I really liked it. Even when I don't host, I enjoyed that. That's kind of like the first initial thing is get signups, get people to sign up. Put up flashy posts on Instagram that could entice people. Maybe they don't know your gym. So you're reaching out to other gyms to help share the information about your event. So I was reaching out to fellow owners in the community, making sure and trying to encourage my gym members to share to their story when they signed up or if they were looking for a partner, stuff like that. And that all drives participation. Since I haven't hosted this event before, I didn't have an email list to go off of. Now, after hosting it, I have that contact information. So when I host the next one, I'll be able to use that information to reach out to past participants and send them notifications, encouraging them to sign up because I have a base now, as opposed to, who's going to sign up for this competition besides the people from my gym? That's kind of the first step. And as you're going along, when teams are signing up or individuals signing up, you're sharing it. That shows the gym is fully invested in this competition. Like team Chalk It Up, team Sassy Squatters, who they are, what gym they're coming from. Because a lot of athletes actually like that. They like to see that the host of a competition is putting that information out because you get to share it to your story. Some people are a little bit more private where they're not sharing it, but there are plenty of people who enjoy putting that on their Instagram story or on their Facebook page because then it also might get some friends to sign up. You're invested in what you're doing. That's kind of the basic groundwork in the beginning is let's focus on getting the participation up. As it gets closer, you're doing a lot more behind the scenes work, such as getting volunteers, printing out score sheets, visualizing the format for each workout where you're going to put specific equipment and position it in that lane. How many lanes are you going to have? How many heats are you going to have? Based on the divisions, what equipment do you actually have access to? For me personally, I was trying to keep the divisions competing together, meaning all the novice women went at the same time, all the intermediate went at the same time, or at least most of them. But that meant I had to have a certain number of wall balls or barbells or rowers to make that happen. For some workouts, I could, others I couldn't. And to help me with that, by looking at it in advance and counting how many dumbbells, wall balls, kettlebells, things that I had, I reached out to other gyms. So a huge shout out to CrossFit Delaware Valley and the gym. Those two locations loaned me some equipment to use for the competition, which was extremely helpful. Because sometimes you plan and plan and plan, and you still have last minute signups that shake things up, and you have to be prepared for that. So I wanted to make sure I had an extra set of dumbbells if needed, an extra wall ball or box, just to cover my butt, because I didn't want anything bad to happen to the event. This event is for the athletes. I want to go smoothly. I want people to have fun, enjoy themselves, get those good workouts in, and leave feeling positive, good about what they did, and not extremely late, drawn out, where the host isn't sticking to a time frame. And all that happens in the preparation. So as it got closer and closer, sure, was I pushing that timeline? Yep. But I did have a busy couple weeks beforehand, being injured and then having a competition. Coming back to the week of Festivus, it's like, okay, let's get everything in place that we need. So I had to set up the lanes. Okay. My boyfriend happened to be here, who was a huge help. Took the cones. I said, do you think we could cut even squares out of this and you could write the numbers on it for me? And he did that while I was coaching a client, which was extremely helpful. And then that's something so small, but it makes a huge impact the day of the event. I had printed out all the score sheets. I didn't have any labels. I didn't want to go to the store and get labels and figure out how to do that on my computer. So I wrote every team, their heat, their lane on the score sheet, organized it so that score sheet never had to leave the clipboard or the lane it was placed in, which was a little bit tedious and upfront. But gosh darn it, day of, that made it smooth sailing. I was so happy that I did that. And you have all these small things. Some of it is I have the gym. I'm running the gym. What are we doing the week of so that way I can set up? But also I'm preparing the athletes who are competing in the event, preparing them and setting them up for success on Saturday. And I don't want to hinder that by doing too hard workouts, something too easy. And it's a fine balance of coach and host, because that's two separate jobs. And I had to tell my athletes that, hey, day of, I'm not your coach. I can't be your coach. I am the host. Because that would be unfair to other competitors coming. This is your time. You have me all these months and days leading up to it. Ask me what you need to now, so that way day of, you are as prepared as you can be. And I made sure they knew that. And the setup kind of took a chunk of time, and I did it in pieces. One day I had moved boxes and dumbbells and barbells. I had some of my members assist, but I knew they were preparing for the competition. I didn't really want to ask for their help because I knew they were already doing a lot. They were being very nice in assisting, so I tried to make it as minimal as possible. Not only are you dealing with the athletes as a coach, all the competitors as a host, but then you also are dealing with the volunteers, because it will not function without volunteers. We need people to help judge each team. If I only have 4 volunteers, but I've set 8 heats of 8 lanes, I don't have enough judges. I didn't do good prep work. So early on, when I was thinking about my volunteers, I reached out to the Army recruiting station. They were a huge help. 4 of them showed up. I asked members from my gym who weren't participating and a couple of other people I've worked with in the past who came out and really showed up and helped make the event possible. Although a one-woman show, this is not a one-woman show. There's a lot of working parts that go into it. And that's what makes it successful. All the organization you do up front. I decided I was going to meet with my volunteers early the day of the competition, but the week leading up to it, I had sent them a group message, a couple of videos to watch on the workouts and the standards so that they were familiar with it. I told them what I was going to provide to them as their host, some food, some beverages, what their role was. That way, when they showed up Saturday, nothing was a surprise. And then we could go over the standards, review certain things, and make it smooth sailing. On top of that, did a lot of spreadsheet work. Lots. Because I set up the lanes in the spreadsheet in Excel. And then I took those lanes and I made sure I had enough judges. I had a couple of judges that had to leave early. So I'm putting them in places, making sure I'm not doubling up. And then I also have one where which division is in which lane. So that way it can help my score. So a lot of spreadsheets. And even though I checked it and I had the head judge check it, sometimes still mistakes come up. Luckily, which Chris did a fantastic job of, who was my lead coach, he had all the volunteers to like print out 9 of these to give to the judges. And our tiered system was, here are our judges and volunteers. Chris, you're in charge of volunteers. If they have an issue, if there's something, they go to you. If it's something you can't resolve, then you come to me. That was kind of our chain of command, which actually worked very, very well. And he had them review it, and there were a couple of mistakes where people were in different lanes but of the same heat. And so that was a great catch. And then we were able to fix that quickly before anything else could happen and make it a hectic, chaotic day. And that's props to the judges and Chris for handling that. And that's exactly what needed to happen. And then it came to me and I fixed it, reprinted it, gave it to them, and everything was a piece of cake. Literally, that day, all the judges knew exactly where they're going to go and fell into place. The only concern that probably Chris, my head judge, and myself were concerned about was with changing out equipment, because some people might not be familiar with 35-pound barbells versus 45-pound barbells, what goes where. And he and I both managed that. So during the heat, while he is assessing people's form, I'm kind of emceeing, watching the clock, assessing form as well. When I say form, I mean the standard of the movement. But then going to the volunteers who are not actively judging and tell them what needs to change for the next heat. And it was pretty smooth. I'm very proud of all the volunteers / judges, my head judge, and my scorer. It was seamless. And sure, I'll toot my own horn that it was all the preparation I did, but it was clear enough for them that they could execute it. And that is extremely important when hosting an event. You want it to make sense. You want it to be easy for them. And sometimes you think it's going to be that way and it's not. We even had a hiccup in the middle of it. So in our second workout, a woman got hurt. She dislocated her elbow. Luckily, if you've been listening to my podcast, I have experience with that. But it was in the middle of the heat. There's a lot of things going on, and I'm trying to figure out what to do while still also do my role. Now, there is no right or wrong way. People are going to have their own opinions on what should have or should not have been done, because they were in the middle of the heat. Even her teammate finished the workout while she was down. And we concluded that heat, and I'm trying to figure out what to do. Initially, I was going to have people come out, and then we backtracked because we were waiting for the ambulance to get there. We could not do anything until the ambulance arrived. And once the ambulance arrived, I had everybody go into the athlete area away so the EMTs could handle the situation, which, considering all injuries, that was the best injury we could have had. That it's not good that there was an injury, but stuff happens, and you kind of have to think on your feet and roll with the punches. And no matter what you decide, there's going to be people who are happy with what you did and people who are unhappy with what you did. I feel like we made the best decision I could have made on the fly. And I think because people cheered when we made some changes, I think that resonated with individuals, which I'm happy about, because my focus was on all the athletes. How can I make this the best event for the athletes? And I was concerned that this hiccup was going to throw a wrench in that, even though it was out of our control. And that situation was handled. And then a bonus, we were able to get back on track, being very efficient in getting the heats out and in. And I was watching the clock because I knew people didn't want to be there till like 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, especially since there was no need to get behind our schedule. And we were able to catch up to a schedule, having now been maybe 20, 30 minutes behind. And that is a testament to my hosting, the head judge, all my volunteers, and the athletes that were there working and being diligent with when I called them. And we were able to not skip a beat, which was fantastic. I will say it was a little stressful leading up to it because it's kind of like a slow burn. You're doing all these things, expecting and anticipating a certain result that may or may not happen. Because I've been to events that get behind. Sometimes it's not their fault. Sometimes it's just a couple minutes, but then those couple minutes grow and grow throughout the day. I don't like that as an athlete, so I really tried to make it a successful event for everyone who showed up. The spectators, I took them into account how I was setting up the gym, making sure each lane had the appropriate equipment, enough space, and we didn't have any collisions, which was fantastic because the one workout required multiple pieces of workout things, and it was great. Like I said in the quote, event hosting is an extreme sport, and it absolutely felt that way. It was nonstop. I think the only thing I ate that day was a rice cake that I had before check-in opened and one of my water bottles. And you're just moving throughout the day. I need to do better as a host to take care of myself in that situation. Absolutely. Outside of that, I think it went very, very well. And I'm hoping we're able to host again in April because it's going to be probably an individual competition, which maybe we'll get more athletes, have more heats, and it will be a very exciting time. And having gone through the setup for hosting an event that already kind of exists, I know now exactly what to expect. Whereas when I've hosted my own, there are certain things you could do a little bit differently, but it still functions almost the same way. They just give you a template because it's their event and you're following suit with their workouts, their movements, their standards, etc. So if you're interested in hosting an event, be aware that it is an extreme sport. It will tire you out emotionally, physically, mentally, but it's going to be totally worth it. Thank you so much for tuning into the Flex with Aaliyah. I will catch you next time. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, comment, you name it.